fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
In December of 2017, the Stockton police got a tip that a baby had been killed in May of 2016, and it had never been reported. But the investigation showed that the family had not just one missing child, but rather two. I'm Charlie, and welcome to Crimelines. Hello and welcome to the 12 Days of Crimelines, where I cover 12 missing persons cases, mostly in December and a few in January, and this is case number 9. This is the third episode in the series where I am covering a case with more than one missing person. And I wish I could start this one the way I've started all the rest of them, where I tell you about the victims in this case, but we know next to nothing about these children. We don't even have a photograph of one of them. With a lack of information, this episode is going to be one of the shortest ones I've ever done. But let's go ahead and start with the tip that alerted the authorities that anything was wrong at all. In December of 2017, an inmate at a local jail wanted to talk to the Stockton, California police about a child who had been killed. The inmate's name has not been released, so I am going to randomly assign him the name of Paul for the sake of this episode. Paul had a friend named Aaron Weddles, who had several children with his partner, Princess Knez Walker. According to Paul, on May 13th, 2016, Aaron was involved in a shootout at the apartment complex where the family lived. Aaron was hit multiple times in the legs and once in the arm, and he was taken to the hospital in critical condition. He did eventually recover, and when he was released from the hospital, Aaron went to Paul and said he wanted Paul to help him take care of the people who had shot him. During this conversation, Aaron broke down crying about his son, who he said was killed in the shootout. From what Paul said, it was not clear if Aaron was the one who shot the child accidentally or if it was the person shooting at him. Aaron told Paul that he did not tell the police about this, but instead he buried his son in the yard. And Paul confirmed to the police that he never saw the baby again after the shootout. Paul had enough specific names and dates and information that the police were able to jump on this and start looking into the background of the parents and try to figure out where they were then so they could question them. And this is what they learned over the course of their investigation. Aaron Weddles and Princess Knez Walker had 5 children together, with the first one being born in August of 2013 when Aaron was 37 and Princess was 28. Not quite 2 years later, in June of 2015, they had a set of twin girls, and then 10 months later, they had a second set of twins, a boy named Ren and a girl named Setina. So in the span of 2 years and 8 months, the couple had 5 children. Ren was their only son, so if Paul was telling the truth, this would be the child who died in the shootout. 5 small children would be a lot for anyone, but for Princess and Aaron, this was an untenable situation. Both of them dealt with on-again, off-again drug issues, and Princess also had significant mental health concerns. Princess's sister told Fox 40 that her life went downhill after she met Aaron and got into drugs. Then when their mother died in 2013, Princess had a hard time coping since their mother was her anchor in life. And it got so bad that some family members, including the sister, had to distance themselves from Princess, and frankly from the chaos that she and Aaron lived in. By the time the second set of twins, Ren and Setina, were born, Princess's life was unstable enough that a nurse at the hospital where they were born noticed. She contacted Child Protective Services with her concerns about Princess and Aaron's ability to care for the babies. And there was either a separate call or a follow-up report that they also did not bring the babies in for their well baby checkups. I am surprised that this did not raise more concern on the part of Child Services because Princess did have 3 older children from her first marriage who were not in her care. Some of their reporting indicates that all 3 of them were in foster care, and some says that 2 of them were in care and 1 may have been living with family. But if she did not have custody of 3 of the children, and then there's a CPS call related to 2 more of them, you would think some action would be taken. It's not clear what, if anything, CPS did, but these babies absolutely slipped through the cracks. We've seen other cases where Child Protective Services gets a hard look taken at them because of what they did or did not do. I covered the case at Oakley Carlson where this happened, and my friend at the Murder She Told podcast covered the Harmony Montgomery case if you want to go listen to that over there. Both of those cases triggered a review at what Child Protective Services and the caseworkers and the judges involved all did. And that view was made largely public. But that did not happen in this case. It got a lot of immediate coverage and then nothing. And that is why we are going to go over it today. So let's get back to the timeline. The twins, Ren and Setina, were born in April, and the shooting Aaron was involved in occurred in May. Then in late June, the family was evicted from their apartment. Being that the eviction was a month after Aaron was involved in violence, that may have even been the reason they were kicked out. When they were evicted, the paperwork said that the occupants of the home were Princess and 4 children, even though there should have been 5 children listed. It is not clear if this was a head count done by the complex at the time of the eviction, or if this is just what was listed on an old lease. The family was living in public housing at the time, and being evicted from this type of subsidized housing makes it nearly impossible to get any type of help with rent in the near future. With nowhere to go, the family ended up living in their car. From late June of 2016 until December of 2017, the family largely flew under the radar. We know some people took notice of the condition of the car and that people appeared to be living in there, but they didn't call Child Services about it because the people who have spoken up said they never saw children with Aaron and Princess. They only saw the adults. So I hope that means that at least some of the time the kids were spending their nights in safer places, like maybe with family. Because they were living in their car at the time Paul gave his tip about the shooting, they were not easy to find. On January 4th, 2018, the police issued missing persons reports on all of the family members. And the same day they did that, a team of anthropologists conducted an excavation at the yard where the family was living at the time of the shooting. However, they didn't find anything. The family's vehicle was located on January 9th, 2018 in Stockton. And in the car at the time were Aaron and Princess and 3 children, their 4-year-old daughter and their 2.5-year-old twins. Ren and Setina, who would have been about 20 months old at the time, were not with them. The family had been living in their 16-year-old SUV for a year and a half, which is enough time to expect the car to not be in great condition on the inside. Just imagine the bare minimum number of things you would need for 2 adults and 3 children, and imagine cramming all of that in a midsize SUV. But even taking that into consideration, the police found several alarming things on a search of the vehicle. They called the conditions deplorable. It was filthy with trash, mold, and even feces on clothing. And even worse, there were dangerous items accessible to these small children, like knives, a machete, and a hatchet, as well as drugs. And we're talking meth and heroin and the associated paraphernalia. The conditions of this SUV were bad enough and negligent enough that 41-year-old Aaron Weddles and 34-year-old Princess Kennez Walker were arrested and charged with child abuse and neglect. The two also had outstanding warrants. Aaron's were drug and traffic related, and Princess had a felony vandalism charge. The three children were placed into foster care while Ren and Setina remained missing persons. With the parents in custody, the investigators asked them where the babies were. I mean, they had 5 kids and they were having to live in a vehicle, so maybe they just placed them with friends or relatives until they could find a bigger place. There could have been a very simple answer to where their youngest 2 children were, but of course, there wasn't. Princess reportedly told the police that she thought the babies may have been kidnapped, but she didn't know when or by whom or where, and she admitted she never reported their disappearances to the police. When Aaron was first asked what happened to Ren and Setina, he told the police that they should do their jobs since that's what they were getting paid for. But he eventually did give a story that related back to the night of the shooting, but it was not the same story Paul told. Aaron claimed that on the night of the shootout, he put the babies to bed in their cribs and then went outside. That's when someone shot him and he was transported from outside of the apartment to the hospital in critical condition. And when he came home from the hospital, the twins were gone. He said he never saw them again. And it has not been released, as far as I can tell, what he told the police Princess told him about where they were. Because surely if he came home from the hospital and 2 of his children were missing, he would have asked his girlfriend about it. These parents were not that forthcoming about where their babies were, so the investigators turned to their friends and family to try to piece together a timeline. The people who did see the family every so often gave information that really only made the whole situation more confusing. Aaron basically said that the babies went missing at the same time, around the time he was shot, and it's true no one saw Ren after that date, but people saw Setina. In fact, one of Princess's cousins asked Princess where Ren was in the summer of 2016 because she hadn't seen him in a few weeks, but she saw all of the other children. Princess's answer was that Ren was killed in the shootout and Aaron wrapped his body in a blanket and put it in the freezer. The cousin was incredibly alarmed by what Princess just said, so she asked her to repeat herself, and Princess then said that Ren was in the hospital, which would make more sense. We know when Aaron was shot, he was in critical condition after the shooting. He was shot multiple times, including in the legs. I would think he wouldn't really be in the condition to be the one running around trying to hide Ren's body before first responders got there. But there is a bigger reason why the cousin brushed off Princess's comment about the freezer, and that's Princess's mental health. Sometimes she would make statements that weren't true and were actually delusions, like claiming to be God. So the family had learned over the years not to take everything she said at face value. But we do know that Setina was seen after the shooting and after Ren was last seen. The investigators initially said she was seen as late as August 21st, 2016, when she would have been 4 months old, but the California Attorney General's website has the date she was last seen as March 21st, 2017, meaning she was 11 months old when she disappeared. The exact timeline is not clear, but we do know that Princess's family did notice that Setina went missing at some point, and of course, when she visited without the baby, they asked where she was. And Princess said that someone in Aaron's family was taking care of her, which, given their living conditions, made sense. When an aunt asked one of the other kids about Setina, the oldest sister just said that the baby had gone bye-bye. Hoping to refine the timeline a bit, the investigators talked to people who probably would have seen the family more often, and those are other members of the homeless community where the family lived. And they did find people who knew Aaron and Princess, and they all said the same thing. They had 3 kids, not 5. They had no idea they had these younger 2 children. You really have to wonder how long it would have been before their disappearances were reported, if not for the inmate coming forward. Aaron and Princess could have kept this up for a while if they didn't see their families often. Some of Princess's relatives had never even met the twins, and some didn't even know any of the children were in Princess's custody because her older 3 weren't. They just assumed the state wouldn't give a mother who lost custody of 3 children the chance to parent 5 more. If Aaron told his family the babies were with Princess's family and she said they were with his family, or if either of them did what Adam Herman's adoptive parents did and just say they were in foster care, this could have gone on forever without being reported. Given the circumstances of Paul coming forward, it sounds like he did it to make a deal in whatever case he was locked up for. So hopefully someone else out there who knows more also needs to make a deal one day. Or maybe just their conscience will get to them and they'll speak up. As far as the legal process with Aaron and Princess goes, they were facing the child abuse charges, and for a brief time they were also facing murder charges. But those were dropped due to a lack of evidence. The state said they weren't waiting to find Ren and Setina's bodies, but they were waiting for more evidence in whatever form that took. The only evidence they really had was the witness who said he was told Ren was killed in the shootout, and the fact that they couldn't find him. And as far as Setina goes, they had even less than that. The state cannot prove that the kids are definitely deceased, and if dead, that they died by homicide, and if they died by homicide, what degree of murder or manslaughter is it? And if it was any degree of murder or manslaughter, was it at the hands of one or both of their parents? I mean, odds are, but odds are isn't the same as beyond a reasonable doubt. Unless Aaron or Princess start cooperating with the police to find their babies, they will always live under this cloud of suspicion. There are strangers on the internet and random Midwest podcasters who seem to care more about the whereabouts of these babies than they do. But again, our standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, so the only charges that went forward were the abuse charges. Princess was initially deemed too mentally incompetent to proceed, but after receiving psychiatric treatment, a judge ordered her to stand trial. But she and Aaron both ended up pleading guilty in September of 2019 to 8 counts of child endangerment. That is 1 count for each of Princess's 8 total children. The 3 from her first marriage, the 3 surviving children with Aaron, and Ren and Setina. Though Princess's older 3 children were not in her custody at the time of the arrest and not living in the car, during the investigation, they disclosed abuse and neglect, primarily at Aaron's hand, and that was included in this case. They were both sentenced to 15 years and 4 months in prison with parole eligibility after 6 years. I looked them both up on California's inmate search page and neither showed up, so that was my first clue that they have been released. My second clue was I found them both on social media. They do use nicknames and variations of their names, but they were not hard to find. And let me tell you, Aaron really loves Facebook. He has more accounts on there than your great aunt who forgets her password every 6 months. Based on when all these new Facebook accounts popped up, it looks like they were released in late 2023 or very, very early 2024. And that is where the case stands as of December of 2025. What the authorities need is more evidence. Ren and Setina Weddles were born in April of 2016, and if alive today would be nearly 10 years old. They are of mixed ethnicity. Their father is Black and their mother is Cambodian. There are no known photos of Ren Weddles, but there are 2 of Setina, and they were used to make an age progression to the age of 5 or 6. Setina had black hair and brown eyes, and it is assumed Ren would have similar coloring. It is likely Ren went missing at around 5 weeks old, and Setina went missing between 4 months and 11 months. The family was local to Stockton, and according to NCMEC, they frequented several locations in the Central Valley and Foothill areas around Stockton, and they were last known to drive and live in a white 2002 Suzuki XL7, which is a mid-sized SUV. If you saw, heard, or know anything, you can call the Stockton police at 209-937-7911 or NCMEC at 1-800-THE-LOST. These numbers will be in the show notes.